I was watching an interesting documentary the other day. So it was this village in Congo, and it was about these. So there was two things that was happening in this village. The first thing that was happening, sadly enough, was there was a lot of men committing suicide. Like a lot of men. It was a tiny little village, but they wanted to find out the reason why these men were committing suicide. And they were asking them questions, not asking the men that passed away, obviously, but they were asking the family members questions. And
why won't you answer me?
Answer me now, the person. But they were answering the family members, and they were reading a lot of the notes that they left when they passed away. And some of the simple things were stuff like, I did not have a job, like I don't have a job. Do you know what I mean? Or I feel like I don't feel like a man. Yeah. Like I'm not able to provide for my family. Course, like I don't have a purpose in life. And every single family that lost someone, the reason for that individual taking their life, sadly enough, was all coming down to them not feeling like they had a purpose in life. Yeah. Or not feeling like they were able to like provide and support their family. Mm-hmm. And it's sad, but it brings forth to the idea that like as human beings we need that purpose, we need that drive, we need that we need that strength or that backbone, knowing that we're able to support and provide for our family, and we have a purpose in life, either it be in the arts, something we enjoy doing, or a job or a career that we're passionate about. And without that, there's kind of like a loss within us. So and it's interesting because I have loads of conversations with people in regards to like passions and stuff like that, and a lot of young people that I speak to, particularly my church and stuff, when it comes down to passion, they always relate passion to maybe having a skill like playing football or an instrument or something. But what I tend to tell them is that passion is the energy that you put into anything that's put in front of you, and that should be your passion. You know what I mean? So the drive that you put into whatever is in front of you. So let's say you work in, I don't know, computing. Put your energy and thought into that. Make it as enjoyable as you possibly can, and that will keep you going. Or else you're constantly going to be searching for the passion that doesn't exist, because you're told by the world that if you don't have a particular talent, if you're not famous or rich using this particular talent, then you're completely useless. Like you're void as a human being, whether you're male or female. And it's a dangerous ideology to have. So
well, I agree, and I'm not sure if I'm. Well, I mean, for example, I used to work before I did what I do.
Did what I do.
That's right ground. Before I did what I do, yes. Yeah. I used to work in customer service in museums. Oh, cool. And I worked in a bunch of museums in London, the British Museum, the V&A, doing kind of temp work, but then full-time at the British Museum, the Science Museum. And I didn't... I mean, I was working customer service, so I was helping usually angry customers, get tickets or find directions or go to the bathroom. Yeah. And, it's not a dream job. Working customer service is never a dream job. And my passion was in other things. Partly I was studying, I was doing my PhD while I was working part-time. But I worked with a lot of people who really disliked the job, and you could tell because they were very rude with the customers. They didn't put any effort into their job. For them, it was just a slug, and they would just slug it through until Friday, where they would get smashed at the pub, which I can sympathize with because I got smashed at the pub as well. But I was always, I don't know if my colleagues would necessarily agree with me, but I felt that I was always. I always tried to be good at my job. I always tried to be very polite to the customers. I never lost my temper. I was always very professional, and I thought that even if this is not the job that I want to do for the rest of my life, I should do it well. Yeah, definitely. Because I owe it. One is it's part of my job to be. I work in customer service. Yeah, that doesn't mean you have to bend over and take a abusive beating from an angry customer. You shouldn't. You have to stand your ground and have self-respect and defend your position. But at the same time, you shouldn't be outright rude because you're having a bad day, because you feel dissatisfied with yourself. You should always try to be polite. Most definitely. Because it's part of your job and you owe it to your employers as well. Yeah, most definitely. So you're right. I think that no matter what you do in life, even if it's temporary, you're doing it as a stepping stone to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You should give it your all. You should certainly put... because it's more enjoyable for you if you do that, as you say.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things I recently told one of my friends. We were having a discussion on like mental health issues and so forth, and she was like, "Oh, how do I maintain so calm and positive at all times?" And I was trying to explain to her that sometimes it's an act, but not an act as in like I'm faking it, but I always approach every situation in a positive light. So if I'm approaching someone for the first time to have a conversation with them, whether it be in a bar or like in the middle of nowhere, I always approach that person with the assumption that they're a good person, that they're going to be a nice person, because then that then levels my energy and puts me in a position whereby I'll approach them in a positive manner in the hope that I'll get that back, it'll get reciprocated. Because if I go in there defensively, or if I go in there on the offense and with aggression and anger, it's most likely it's going to be reciprocated.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So, and one of the examples I gave, I was like, if I walk up to someone with my arms out open to give the person a hug, I'm most likely to receive a hug. But if I go,
not if you don't know them.
No, if I don't know them, it might be a strange interaction. But if I go with my dukes up, ready to swing at the individual, then it might end up completely different.
Yeah, of course.
Just through simple actions.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we forget. It's like the energy you put out, you're most likely going to reciprocate it. So you should be well aware of it and conscious of the energy that you're putting out there as an individual. Yeah.
I mean, as a teacher, I have one particularly kind of difficult class. Yeah. I won't name them.
Name and shame.
But I remember I always have a difficult time. I used to, now it's not too bad actually. Yeah. But I used to dread this class, and because I knew that it was going to be a struggle. And then you're like, oh God, I got this class. I gotta go in there, and there's going to be a tirade of abuse. I'm going to have to suffer. I'm going to have to send like 8 kids out of the lesson. And I remember I went in there feeling really almost aggressive. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to take any nonsense from these kids. As soon as one,
chopping their head off.
Puts their head up above the parapet. And I had a terrible class because I went in there with this mentality, I'm going to take this, and then and it went terribly. And to be honest with you, I felt really bad after teaching the class. I was like, man, I went in there with a bad attitude. You
negated that energy. Yeah.
And the kids responded in kind. And then so the following week I went in and I was sarcastic, but in a kind of which one of you is going to spend lunch with me? None
of us, sir.
Oh, it's going to be you. Congratulations. You got a lunchtime detention. And the thing is, I was disciplining them because I kept a bunch of them behind for lunchtime detention, but I did it with a smile on my face. Yeah. And actually the lesson went pretty well because I injected some humor into it, and the kids weren't aggressive to me. They weren't like, let's make this guy's life hell. Yeah. There was banter. Yeah. And our lessons have gotten progressively better because I've had a slightly different, a very different approach and a different attitude to the lesson. Yeah. And so I don't mind going. But you're right. I completely agree.
It works. It works for me personally, and it has done for a long period of time. It helps me with networking and talking to people on all levels and various backgrounds and so forth, because I approach everyone with the same format pretty much. Yeah, so there's no shift in format regardless of what level you're in, and it kind of helps create a boundary of respect and, do you know what I mean, commonality. So it keeps the relationships flowing. Yeah. So it's really good. But as a teacher, you must really get tested in terms of your own temperament, because students are like.
But I teach at a good school.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What level again? What's the age range like?
Well, I mainly teach year 7 and 8 and 12.
Oh, okay.
So 8 is the worst. 7s are nice because they're, especially at the beginning of the year.
They're new to the school.
They're new to the school, and they all just sit there and we gotta work, and they're quite. Year 8, they're old school.
They're a bit cool now.
Oh man, we've done the first year. Yeah. The new kids are coming in.
Yeah.
And they have this. They have they've solidified their friendship groups. They're comfortable. They they're starting to kind of test the boundaries, and they can be little shits.
Yeah,
they really can. But they're still young enough to be, you know, some of them are not innocent and quite, you know, positive and like, oh,
yeah.
you know, hi sir, I'm off to maths, and you're like, okay,
It's like the teacher's pits, yeah.
yeah, but they're nice, you know. And then the year 12s, I think I probably like teaching the year 12s most, because although there's, you know, they're only a year after the GCSE, so there's that kind of, but they're 17, they're more mature. You can go really in depth in the topic that you're, you know. So I teach Chinese history, and film studies, and you do a lot of analysis. You can have a more kind of mature jokes. You not that mature, but like, you know, you can
the triple X version.
No, but the quality of the humor is higher. You know what I mean? There's sarcasm, there's wit, there's you know, you can really talk to them almost as human beings as opposed to children, and you know, and it's nice. It's nice, and it's nice to see the kids. I mean, I've only been teaching for about 2 years, but it's nice to see the kids kind of grow, change, and.
So you're part of like that transition. You're able to.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, I mean, I haven't been teaching for very long, but you know, from what I've heard from other teachers, is you know, you can see a kid go from 11 years old to 18 years old, and imagine the transition. That you see.
That's when they find themselves, aren't they?
So, and you're part of that process. You know, you are helping them to discover the world through your enthusiasm about your subject, about how you portray, like, you know. China is, well, obviously I teach Chinese, right? So Chinese is a world language. I can teach them about a different kind of viewpoint, a different way of seeing the world, a different way of communicating, different kind of social, historical, political history. And it's eye-opening, and it changes their perception of the way the world is, and it's nice.
It would be interesting to find out from you, because you should be able to know, well, not that I'm assuming that you know, but I mean, what are kids' ideas of like the world in terms of like their own political identity? Like, how did they see stuff? Like, how do they see all the various changes that we're trying to kind of like levelize as a society? Like, or do they not?
It depends on the year group as well.
Yeah,
I think, for example, like what I've noticed a lot. I don't talk about politics a lot with my. Well, I basically don't talk about politics with my youngest kids, but there will be like one or two little comments that pop up about things like Brexit. And with the year 7 and 8 kids, a lot of them will kind of parrot what their parents say. Yeah. I've noticed that. They say like, well, my parents are against Brexit. And I'm just like, you know, because the school I go to I teach at is quite it's a good school. It's kind of the parents are pretty well to do. The kids are smart. So I think generally the parents are pretty kind of left leaning, pro European, and we have a nice inclusive environment in the school. So that's good. Yeah. But you know, to what extent do the kids really understand the political, economic pressure, like the consequences of Brexit? They don't. Yeah.
But then there's a lot of changes happening in their generation, which, of course, is in essence going to affect them. So
yeah. I mean, one thing that seems to be kind of not my school necessarily, a few for sure, but schools in general is the strike on climate change.
Oh yeah, that's a big one,
so kids at my school as well went on the march where they boycotted school to go on the climate march, right? Kind of GCSE level, that kind of kids, 16, 15. And so they're quite politically engaged. I mean, to what extent are these kids do they really care, or whether they just want a day off school? I don't know. But the point is, you know, I never made, well, it wasn't really an issue, but like my generation, we never made a stand like that. We were never politically engaged at 15, 16. I didn't understand anything about the world at that age. And so, but then again, we didn't really have the internet.
That's the thing. So the internet completely changed the game in terms of like communication.
So kids now, there's no restrictions to information for the younger generation, whereas for you and I, there were those restrictions. So it's nice to see kids that are politically engaged.
Yeah, definitely.
I can't